first?
Yeah, good. Well, just busy. I think like everybody, I feel like I spend all day on Zoom calls of some sort. Really, really great. This morning I was on a call. AWB has stood up a rebound and recovery task force. So I was on that call, and then was on a call with my statewide chamber leaders as well around 11 o'clock today. So it's just busy doing all kinds of doing all this stuff. Ran by the office. Our office is still there, so good. Our building's still standing, you guys. Maybe we'll go back there one day.
Does it miss us?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Kind of a similar day for me as well. We have team calls, and we're working towards Tourism Week, which is coming up the week of May 4th. So happy to spiel on that. But I serve on a couple statewide boards for tourism. One of them's Washington State Destination Marketing Organization. And I just jumped off of that call to get on this call. And we're talking about business recovery and what that looks like through the tourism lens and driving economic impact. So a lot of people looking forward to that, but making the plans today on the endeavors we'll engage in to make that happen.
You bet. Well, that's actually a great segue. This is perfect timing. It's almost like we rehearsed this or something. But that is our topic today. We will talk about what each of us are doing as our own organizations, and then what we're working on doing together, focused on really rebuilding businesses here in the Tri-Cities, and then also, Michael, for you specifically on tourism, what we're each doing. And maybe we can take about 5 or so minutes and just talk very generally on that topic. And Lori, if you'd be nice enough to kick us off, we'll start with what the chamber's working on.
Sure, absolutely. So we Michael's dropping a subtle hint.
Yes, I have.
Micah.
Hey, there we go.
Oh.
I think I won.
Lori definitely wins.
Michael, what is from your office, Mike? No, I'm kidding.
Man,
you didn't know I had keys to visit Tri-City? No.
I kept seeing our stash go down. Now I know.
I actually had this a long time ago, but there you go. This is my coffee cup today. Yeah. So.
Well, I've got perpetual.
Okay.
Yeah, the time it takes to make that first pot. My wife and I get up every day at 4. We feed the pups. We head out for an hour-long walk and start our days. So I'm dropping 2 shots of espresso and hit and go.
Nice.
All right.
Do you need coffee? I don't know, Michael.
I was just taking a drink. Don't do that to me.
Oh, too funny. Well, yeah. So again, thanks. I think this is a great idea. Thank you so much for doing this and inviting us to participate with you today. When this all started happening about March 12th, I think was kind of a big day for the chamber, at least. Early on, we stood up an open for business site, which you're all using, and hopefully others in the community will use it as well. We started contacting our members, doing a lot of outreach, much like your organizations are doing as well, to we started a member poll, which is still up, asking questions about how they're being impacted and how the chamber can help them. We're promoting their businesses if they give us information about any special offers that they have. We pivoted. We have a program, a long-standing program called Ask the Experts, and we pivoted that so that it's a COVID-19 response webinars, and all of the topics. Some weeks we've done 2 a week. Last Friday, I believe it was last Friday, we had Congressman Dan Newhouse. We've had leaders from various organizations that are really just trying to provide real-time information to businesses so that they can access funds or access information for their employees that are looking for resources in terms of health insurance or unemployment benefits and things like that. We just this week started helping our members with these open for business yard signs that are available. Maybe not so helpful right now because hopefully not very many people are out driving around, but as we start to rebound, hopefully this will be kind of a bright spot in front of people's businesses. So those just kind of the highlight was our kind of this open for business initiative that we're working on.
That's great. Michael, you want to talk a little bit about, and maybe obviously talk more about your work at Visit Tri-Cities, but it's just amazing with the shutdown. And I think back to the last recession, and I was still over in Idaho then. And I think from what everybody said here about the Tri-Cities is that the last recession maybe wasn't felt as deeply here. I know where I was at, it came much more gradual than this shutdown. But construction and we had a lot of sawmills, so they shut down. Real estate industry just kind of closed down. In this, I guess, recession or crisis, whatever we want to describe it as, it was so immediate. And the governor's order came out, and I know that we kind of all started working remotely and working on the way to get our teams working remotely about that same time. And I just remember looking across out of my window in my office at the hotel next door to our building. And just, it was the first time since I'd been there only a month, but still there were no cars in the lot. And so I don't even know what it's like for your members, Michael, and for the travel industry to just almost immediately shut down. But can you talk about that a little bit? And then, what you guys are looking forward to?
Sure. Yeah. So as you might imagine, travel and tourism was on the front end of this. We saw great dips as people stopped moving around. So you're right, Karl, looking out next door at the hotel property, Spring Hill's right there. We've got another property across the street, one up the way. We've got the Three Rivers Convention Center, the Toyota Center, all these parking lots empty. So when you look at what we do, so whether it's group business, which would be things like meetings and conventions. So when you have a professional association you belong to, you go to their annual meeting or a summit or a conference, that's the type of business we bring to the Tri-Cities, packs the hotels, and people go out and enjoy our restaurants and retail and take in attractions, spending a lot of money. Same things happens with sports development. So we bring in everything from youth sports to collegiate to professional sports. Same thing, they pack the hotels, they go out in the community, they enjoy our restaurants, purchase from our retail, take in our attractions. Leisure travelers doing the exact same thing, and even business travel. And not only are they here for business and they're staying in the hotels and driving revenue, but they're going out again and enjoying the community, and sometimes even extending those stays and maybe enjoying wine country. All of it came to a grinding halt. So we saw, I think there's 5 hotel properties that closed. Our revenue is derived from taxes that come through hotel visits, but also through an assessment that people, when they visit our community, pay. So sharp decline in that activity. Of course, when you look at hospitality, over 6,300 jobs supported by it here in our community. When I'm talking to our partners, and these would be everything from the hotels and the meeting spaces to restaurants, certainly retail. Some of these businesses just flat had to close. Some of them got very, very creative in their service delivery, which is awesome, but massive layoffs happen in this space as well. So we saw a lot of our friends, people that we do work with, having to make some really, really tough decisions. And of course, at Visit, we had to do the exact same things to be able to preserve our cash when we come out of this so we can market and help drive recovery endeavors. So thinking in that lens, what we're doing. So of course, Lori mentioned some of the partnerships and how we're working. So it was pretty cool to see what happened on our campus between the 3 organizations. We started highlighting the businesses that were open. Of course, the Chamber did, and then TRIDEC's working on COVID information and all the business essentials. And then Chamber was working on these things and us as well. So we came together under this umbrella, and the Chamber, Lori and company came up with this wonderful tag, Open for Business. So we all came under this umbrella and started talking about all these businesses that are currently still delivering services and how we can help preserve our local economy best we can during this time, and jobs, which is awesome. We were able to snag a local hero, General Mattis, and did a fun, come on, get your order on. And then we did a PSA that was jointly hosted by the 3 of us, our organizations, to get people to be healthy in their approaches to what they're out there doing, but help preserve the local economy. So that's kind of the immediate things we've been doing. Near-term perspective, our team's been working really hard on the group business that was booked and canceled. So sports tournaments, meetings, and conventions, to try and rebook those events later into this year with the hopes that we'll open up and can do that. And we've had a great amount of success doing that, looking later into summer and into fall. So we may have lost some business on the front end of this, but even as we work into this shoulder season, we might be able to pick up some of this. And we're scheduled to do that, which is awesome, booking new business as well. we're also working into the future. So our sales teams, particularly for sports and conventions, we work 1 to 5 years in the future. So those teams never stopped working. And it's pretty exciting. We have a major conference that we landed, details coming soon, but it's really going to help on the backside of this, drive business recovery and put the Tri-Cities on the map in a significant way. So super excited about that. And in the meantime, we've been preparing content creation. So depending on what the rollout looks like for getting people out and about and moving again, that we'll have campaigns and bringing people back to the community when it's safe and in a safe and appropriate manner. So really adhering to what we're going to be hearing coming down from the state, the governor, and what's happening on the federal level as well.
Oh, that's great. I was just reminded for anyone joining us now and our participants on the Zoom call or on Facebook Live, there is the question and answer feature, which I think you can access through Facebook or through Zoom. It's a Q&A tab down at the bottom of the screen. If you want to ask a question, please do so, because as we work through our discussion here, we'll be taking questions here in a little bit. I might just add some of the things that we've been working on with TRIDEC, just to complement what you guys just covered. We were excited to partner with all three of our organizations, and Lori's team did a great job in putting together the logo and really kicking off this open for business concept. And obviously, you know, we all want to help small businesses that are struggling, if they can stay open and do, if it's take out food or, you know, kind of pivot their business, as many have, and we can give the information out, links to their websites, or, you know, just even a posting that they are open for business. We've been excited to participate in that as well. I think what we've spent the most time on with the TRIDEC team here in the last 3 weeks is the Working Washington Small Business Emergency Grants. And this is a fund through the Strategic Reserve Fund that the governor previously had. They had about $5 million in this fund that they opened up for small business grants. And so those were open for businesses with fewer than 10 employees that met certain criteria. And we're called the local ADO. So we actually have a contract with the Department of Commerce. So under that contract, businesses that could apply, and just for information's sake, the application window, unfortunately, is opened. It was closed last Monday. And so if you hadn't applied before, the Department of Commerce was not opening the window back up. But the process that businesses applied, they would fill out a short form online and then email it to TRIDEC in our case. We put together a small committee and we went through all those applications, make sure they were filled out correctly and that they met the criteria. And then we forwarded those on to State Department of Commerce. So they have told us that from this Monday, they will start to announce who was awarded those grants in 4 to 6 weeks. So probably, you know, we'll be looking towards the end of May and maybe slightly into June before they know. But yesterday they did announce that they were able to put $5 million more in the fund. And so it went from $5 million to $10 million. And so we're hopefully that's going to help more small businesses. And I'll just tell you guys, and maybe this is our next topic of conversation, but you know, reading through some of those grant applications, the whole TRIDEC team, we kind of spread it out. We looked at the applications, we put it into a spreadsheet. So we read these descriptions of what businesses are going through. And I think it's pretty hard not to be moved. You know, if we're not aware of what small businesses are facing right now in this crisis, it's pretty amazing. You know, when the governor says shut down your doors and, you know, your business is basically dealing with maybe, hopefully in some cases, 30 days of cash, and that cash turns off, they really only have a small window to keep on paying their bills. So that, I think that was across the board really moving and a great snapshot for us to see what businesses are going through. And it's really as a team, as we work remotely and try to figure out some of this technology like Zoom or Microsoft Teams that we're using, and I think you guys are doing the same things, it's given us a point of contact and saying, what can we do to help these businesses as the governor does this turn up the dial, as he describes it, opens business back up, and what can we do? But that's been really moving for us. And I don't know if you guys have any thoughts or you know, maybe anecdotes or stories that we can share with the folks that are tuning in today about, you know, what it's like out there, and maybe some of the things that you guys have discussed within your teams to help in any way possible.
Yeah, certainly. You know, I think we all, even though we're not in the office together, we're all talking to people every day. And certainly hearing some of those same stories about, the difficulties people are having. It's really heart-wrenching, because these are people that, we know these people. These aren't people across the country that we just see on the news. So, these are businesses in our community. These are people that have given to organizations, and they're really great community leaders, and they're struggling to keep their doors open. And so, I think that so much of the conversations, at least about in the last week or so, have kind of pivoted to, trying to spur this rebound and recovery, so that if in fact, well, today the governor made the announcement that some of the construction activity can restart. And the call I was on this morning was kind of discussing, kind of what industries might be next, or what a plan is. I think what I'm hearing mostly from people is more of just a concern about this lack of a time frame or a pathway of how is this dial going to turn. Is it going to turn by region? Is it going to turn by industry? And so that these businesses have kind of a roadmap per se of when they can start reopening. This call is on this morning. The AWB did this survey. I'm going to try to get I think they're sending the responses out today, and we'll try to share these. And this was a statewide survey, but they gave some information about how many weeks it would take a business to reopen, and some could reopen in a week, and some it's going to take them 6, 7, 8 weeks. And so even once they get that go ahead, it's that they're still not open and fully operational, just because their industry or our region gets that go ahead. So I think there's just so many questions, so much uncertainty about when we're going to open. There's a lot of concern, I think, also from people about how to keep their employees safe, and then there's a lot of concern from employees also about, okay, if I get to go back to work, am I safe to go back to work? How does my business owner keep me safe? How far away do I have to keep from my team members? How am I safe from my customers? And then also, consumer confidence, and also in terms of, a lot of people are home and they don't want to go out. A lot of people are concerned about their own safety. So, there's really kind of those, it's, the business owners and what they need, the employees and what they need, and what consumers and what they need. And there's just so many questions out there that still have to be answered. And I think it's great these conversations are taking place. And I think the business community is going to help drive some activity here, and really push for some answers. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen there.
Definitely.
Yeah. We talk about small business, and some of the conversations we had early on is people made some tough decisions and then continued to. You talked about cash on hand, Karl. A lot of these people have their window there is pretty tight. So some decisions were made pretty early on, but when we look at having to make that hard decision with employees and having to lay off employees, the people that I talked to, and certainly this is something that I personally felt, is we've got people that are not only part of our team, but they become a part of your family. And it's very, very hard to make those decisions, knowing that it's not just the individual, but it's their families and everybody they support. So that's a pretty solid punch to the gut, when you're working to preserve business with the bigger picture in mind, because these are real people and it's going to have real impact. So very, very hard for business owners. And a tough thing too is there's been some job opportunity out there in the middle of this, which has been interesting, but you could lose good employees. So some of these businesses, when it's time to restart, they may not have the people that have the corporate knowledge, if you will, to hit the ground running. And that was one of the things that when we looked at our own business is we had to tighten up. We needed to make sure that we didn't go too far down that road, that we couldn't, restart or maintain operations and still continue to be effective. And that's a it's a lot of balancing going on there. But we've seen some pretty cool things on the front end of this. We reached out to the hotel community and had asked our partners, were they interested in helping house COVID patients or first responders or medical workers, and favorable responses there. And we had conversations early on, checking with the cities, see what their needs were, but certainly talking with the healthcare partners here in the community to understand their needs and let them know we're a resource. As we've reached out to our membership, which I believe both of you have done as well, we're just doing light touches and check-ins and finding out how we can be of service, and people have been super appreciative. Our sales teams, as they work with decision makers here in Washington State, across the US, as we're not pushing to sell, but we're doing check-ins, making sure people were a resource. We're actually able to book business, but they've been really happy that somebody's just there working in their best interest and not trying to put pressure on them at the time when they're trying to figure out what actions they can take. And again, we've had some really good success with that. So it's been well received.
That's a great point, Michael. I think as we did these grant applications, like I was talking about, even though the office is closed, of course, we got some phone calls and questions. And so we tried to respond back to those phone calls, and really what businesses told us as we called them back. And with the grant program, it's very, very competitive. And the reality of it is most of the people that are applying for the grants on this specific program probably won't get funded, and would be upfront and honest and tell them that. I think they just appreciated the fact that we called them back. There's been a lot of just questions and unknowns in this whole crisis. And to your point about just reaching out, how's it going? What can we do to help? Trying to be honest and realistic with them. I think that there's an appreciation. I think it's just that empathy that, people appreciate in these times of crisis. We all do as people, we all have those human emotions. We're getting some questions now. And so maybe we'll ease into that question part. I was thinking about this, and Michael called me out on it early in our Zoom meeting thing, but here in my home office, which is up in our bonus room, I am sitting on one of those bouncy balls. So I thought about that because I always tried not to bounce, but I really can't help it. And I think that's part of why you have a bouncy ball that you sit on. So I just wanted to have full disclosure, like, yes, I'm sitting on actually 2 bouncy balls. So if you see me bob up and down, it's not only am I acknowledging, the great input that we're having in the Zoom call, but I am also bouncing on the ball. So,
well, just to go there with you, because I know this is a serious topic. We talked about trying to keep it light, even as we're discussing these things, but a Zoom call wouldn't be a Zoom call if we didn't have the forehead cam. So I just wanted to get it done, get it out there.
Oh, goodness.
That is really great. Let's start off with this first question. And I think it relates to a little bit what Lori was talking about. And that is, can a clear timeline for reopening businesses be developed by the governor or anyone for that matter until concise and consistent testing protocols are established statewide? And I think, Lori, do you want to get into this? And I think that what we can share is probably what we learned through all the Zoom calls and webinars that we've been on. And I think that's a good question maybe to start out with. And I think I will start off by saying to Lori's point about the governor's announcement today, where they're reopening the construction industry, that'll refer people to this website, which is the Washington State website, kind of set up for all businesses. And it's coronavirus.wa, so .wa.gov, and that's CRONAVIRUS.wa.gov. That's got a resource page. I went to that earlier, and it's got an actual PDF for construction industries. And it basically says, what do you need to have to reopen? At the last call that I was on, I asked the question to someone from Department of Commerce. So who's going to certify this, or do businesses, construction companies in this case, have to apply in order to reopen? And they basically said that the construction companies can go back to work now as long as they're ready to follow those guidelines. So if you go to those guidelines, I think it's a good place to start. And as even on this question, before I give the floor to Lori, I think that if you're not a construction company, you should go there and look at it and be thinking, how can you implement some of those same things in your business and get ready for, as the governor does turn up the dial. I think that's, maybe a good direction that we can point people, Lori.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just visiting with my board chair yesterday, just talking about, if in fact we're able to reopen on May 4th and, and us pivoting as well, just in terms of, how do we bring, 8 or 9 people back into our space, and how do we, protect ourselves from each other and from members, and how do we protect our members, and all of these concerns. The thing I'm hearing, and again, I try to stay in my lane. I'm not a scientist or a health professional, but on the calls, for instance, this call I was on this morning had 2 state officials on it, this rebound and recovery task force. And what they're really talking about, because I think the question, maybe Karl, would you reread that? I don't want to go down a rabbit hole and answering something that makes no sense to anybody.
It was really asking, can there be a concise time frame, or like a whole plan rollout, like when and which industries would be open from the governor's office?
Yeah, so what I'm hearing today is, again, from a couple of statewide leaders, is that we have to have widespread testing, and that currently, I forget the numbers, but like maybe currently a day they're doing about 3,000 or 4,000 tests statewide a day, and they really need to do tens of thousands of tests a day. Does that sound right, you guys? I'm looking at I've got notes. My office looks really clean, doesn't it? if I turn this webcam around, everybody would run. It's really, there's things everywhere. And as anybody that knows me knows I'm a sticky note queen. They're probably on the bottom of my shoes. But we have to have widespread testing. And then, when someone tests positive, then they have to do this contact tracing, so that they can then identify who these people have had contact with, so that those people can be tested. And then the people that test positive for the coronavirus have to, be supported in their isolation. And so, I think that because we haven't had this widespread testing, I think there's a lot of concern is if we start opening business and turning that dial up, are we going to be back in a worse situation because we opened too soon, and that the folks that were positive maybe weren't tested yet, or had been in contact with people who didn't have symptoms and who were passing this along. And then, the last thing anybody wants is to have to go through this a second time. So, I think that there's, just from what I'm hearing, it really comes down to this widespread testing.
Michael, any thoughts on that one, or anything to add?
No, I think Lori nailed it. And, and I think, again, not one of us here being a scientist, unless you are, Karl, our healthcare providers, but no, it really, we've got to put some pretty solid trust in state authorities and local healthcare authorities, what we're hearing out of the health district in what's most appropriate for us in our community, and adhering to that.
You bet. We've got a couple questions. We had some questions that came in before the call started, and then we've got one here in the question and answer. And here's one that is, how are you communicating with Olympia to make sure they see us as the Tri-Cities when they seem to be so focused on the Puget Sound region? And I might just start off with that one a little bit. We just had a conversation this week, and we look forward to doing more with it. And I think this question made reference to PNNL, and I know PNNL has been working on the potential to do testing. Lori, you just did a great job of kind of giving that testing overview, but to actually running the tests to see if they're positive or negative. And as those come about, which I think they're still in the works, I think there is a good case to be made to Olympia that we might be a great case study. Compared to the Puget Sound, we are all pretty concentrated here with our 4 cities. We're pretty together. The scientific strength that we have at the lab as it applies to testing, and then the healthcare community that we have with our providers are so strong. And so we've been trying to have some conversations between the health district and then the governor's office on trying to do that. And I think that those are things that we could all provide in. And if we could do that, then there might be a way for us to potentially be a leader in the state to get ahead of that. And again, we might be able to do things here just because of our size and our connectedness and some of those resources we just mentioned, that we could do that. And I think it's something that we'll continue to have conversations amongst the three of us and see what we can do to bring that about. And if you guys have any other comments, but I do know that some of those conversations are just starting to happen now.
Yeah, I love that, Karl. On our board, and I'm not sure, I don't recall on either one of your boards, but we have Senator Sharon Brown and we have Representative Matt Binky. So we just had a board meeting this week. They have a good understanding of the things that we're going through and representing the Tri-Cities well. I had a conversation, called up Representative Binky. It might have been about a week ago. It all slides together. It is Friday. We're on Friday. Okay. So yeah, it went about a week ago, but having that same conversation. So it's, we've got access to our state legislators, federal legislators as well. And, I think part of that question is what can we be doing? And it's reaching out, having conversations. They're looking to hear from their constituents and, and make sure that they're representing us as well. I really felt that in the conversations that I've had that, they've got our backs and they're working to do what's in our best interest. So it's, certainly, as it should be, but very exciting when we've got that kind of representation.
And yesterday, I'm sure many people listened, but our three representatives had a town hall yesterday from 4 to 5 that was publicized, and they're all, you can just tell they're all working really hard, and I think as always, we always just encourage anybody to reach out to their legislators and share their opinions. I think anybody that knows any of them know that they are open and available and very transparent. And so, I know when we reach out to them, they're very responsive, and I'm sure they are to, citizens alike.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And I was just reminded by our team that I do need to have a a commercial plug or like a, where the local station can log in.
Thank your sponsor. Is that
exactly. This is the inaugural Coffee with Karl. We have and are pleased to have both Lori Mattson from the Regional Chamber of Commerce, President CEO, and Michael Novakovich. We are all building mates and friends. I know I'm kind of early in the process, but I really appreciate you guys and taking the time off.
We'll call you a friend.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's good. We got it on. We've got it recorded.
It's recorded. It was the bouncy ball that clinched it.
It's kind of hard not to like somebody that's bouncing a little bit, right? It's kind of a jack in the box thing. Yeah. But thanks both you guys for being on today, and anybody that's just tuning in, if that's still a thing that you say in today's computer age, if you do have a question, you can use the question and answer feature at the bottom, and we'll jump into another one here. And I really don't know the answer to this. Can businesses be held liable for employees getting COVID-19? I think, Lori, you talked about this a little bit, is employee safety really being tantamount with reopening, and I don't know the answer to that, and I don't know if anybody else does. And I think things that we've all listened to, there's probably not really even a good legal opinion out there. And because it might be a legal issue, you might want to consult your own attorney, but I don't know if you guys have any other input or thoughts on that.
Well, I think that as workers return to work, that the Department of Labor and Industries will have some guidelines for employees, and will be monitoring if employers are following those guidelines. I don't know what those are yet, but I think just like I think when we talk about what's our new normal, I think in addition to all of the other guidelines for businesses in terms of their L&I requirements, that there will be guidelines that employers will have to adhere by in order to keep their employees safe as well. I don't know what those are, but I would imagine, I think if I were a business person and I'm on the phone or I'm on this call, I would go to the Department of Labor and Industries and see what you can find there. It's probably a little early though, especially since we're not officially open yet.
You bet. Okay, we got another question that came in earlier, and it relates to the Hanford site. It says, how will the Tri-Cities work with the feds in conjunction with opening the Hanford site? I might take this one if you guys are good with that. On our team, we have David Replog, that's our federal vice president of federal affairs. And so David has close working relationships with the folks at both DOE and then all the Hanford contractors, as well as congressional staff in Washington, DC and locally. And then we have a lobbyist that we work with as well. And so the current situation for Hanford and the contractors and their employees is they're currently being paid, although most of them are staying at home. And so for most of that cleanup work at Hanford, obviously you have to be physically on site to be able to do it. Because of the first CARES Act, there was actually a provision that our local congressional staff fought really hard for, and that ensures that they're paid even while they're shut down. Because they're under collective bargaining agreements, if they did have to go through a layoff process and then a rehiring, it would actually slow down as they're able to ramp back up once they're approved. All of DOE and the contractors are working with the governor's office and with the state departments that basically can tell them when they might be able to go back to work. We haven't heard anything lately, but with the governor's announcement today on the construction industry, I think you could probably make some analogies and say, well, if construction crews can go back and they have these guidelines in place, would it make sense for some of the Hanford activities to start back up? And I think that's probably reasonable. We'll probably hear more about it as they have continued discussions in the weeks ahead. They have said, though, that it's going to be slow for them to ramp back up, that it's not if you get 1 day behind schedule, once you're open, then it takes 1 day to make that day up. It's probably kind of an accelerated timeline to just get everything back up into speed, get everybody back on site and working in a safe manner, which is always, obviously, in the industry they're working in, safety is always the first concern. But that's kind of what we know about that. And I don't know if you guys have heard anything else or, what's going on with that.
Yeah, I think you're the ones with the pulse on that with David over there. So
Truly.
You bet. And I think, and this might be a good conversation point for us too, but the passage of that specific provision in the CARES Act, we're hopeful, I think we all are hopeful that the dollars that flow into our Tri-Cities community from the federal government through PNNL, through DOE and the Hanford contractors is something like around 15% of our total workforce as far as number of employees, but it represents something greater than 25% of the dollars in the economy. And just the fact that those dollars have continued to flow as the governor does turn the dial up and we get some businesses back open again, it really feels like there's pent-up demand for these services that we haven't been able to access. Like I'll just freely admit, I need to get my hair cut. As I get older, the hair on my neck grows faster than my hair, it seems like. And you probably can't see it on the camera, but like, I got to get back, not that it's that big a deal, but I think we've all been kind of cut off. Yeah. From these services. Exactly. So, I think we're all hopeful that there is this pent up demand and that there are actually dollars in our communities that are kind of waiting to be spent. I don't know if you guys have thoughts about that or ideas.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Just looking like through our lens, it just by nature, when you look at the history of mankind, we're wanderers, we're travelers. This is what we do. And in tourism, it's going to be interesting to see because safety is going to be paramount. But there is pent-up demand. And one of the things that when we look at what we're hearing is we're on call after call, as you are in your industries, of what recovery looks like and where it's going to happen, where it's going to take place. We're hearing in tourism, and this is globally, it's going to happen in rural markets. And as exciting as it is to be 300 strong here in the Tri-Cities, we're actually considered a rural market. One of the places we expect it to come back, and again, this is around the globe, is it's going to be the drive markets. And for us, Seattle is a drive market, and that's where we get the bulk of our people coming in, spending the night, and driving over $500 million in visitor spending annually. So we're well positioned. The third kind of piece to this puzzle, if you're going to have success in this space, what we believe is going to happen is you have to have a community that's big enough that it has a strong healthcare system. And we're at that right size where we've got all these wonderful amenities, but we've also have some great healthcare and some dynamite partners here in the Tri-Cities. So that pent-up demand, when you put all those pieces together and it's safe to do so, I think we're going to see some people heading to the Tri-Cities that may not have considered us before, but really getting in there and enjoying our restaurants and retail and all of these small businesses that are currently, feeling some pretty significant impacts.
I think too, we're, many, maybe all the people on this call, certainly the three of us and our staff, we're still working, and so we're spending less money because there's really not that much to go out and do right now, unless you want to go to Costco or Target, and we're trying to stay home. So but there are a lot of people that are hurting financially, and so their money, their disposable income has been hit. And so I think that hopefully the offset will be that the people that are just so excited to get out and get back to their lives and go do the recreation and get out to restaurants and go shopping and go overnight somewhere and spend some money and get back to our lives. Hopefully that will overshadow some of the other really unfortunate things that have happened to people. I know there's a movement. Stephanie brought this to my attention the other day. There's a college student, I think she's from the University of Washington actually, who started this movement that to encourage people to spend their stimulus checks that they're getting from the government with a small business. I forget the name of this, but it's called something 1200, I think. And to encourage people when they get that $1,200, I realize it varies depending on what people, but I think for the most part it's $1,200 for a lot of people. To go out and spend that at a small business, and that's that. And she has some great metrics on how that could really help a local economy, and how that can help a small business. So
that is so awesome. One of the things that you'll hear it from us at our annual meeting, but we'll talk about it at other times. And with Tourism Week coming up, you'll hear the impacts of this, but when the time is appropriate. It's so funny. I'll talk to my counterparts across the country from some phenomenal destinations, places that we've either been to or we want to go. And the people that live there don't appreciate what they have. They'll be like, there's nothing to do here. There's nowhere to eat. And we'll often get caught up in that too, because we, might not recognize how amazing the Tri-Cities truly is. And I know all of our organizations shine a pretty bright light on that. And as we go into Tourism Week, we're going to be highlighting that with several businesses, many businesses actually, in different kind of segments out here in the community, which is cool. But when the time's appropriate, one of the things that we can do, and we can do this well into the future, is invite your friends and family in. It has huge economic impact, and go out, show off your community, whether it's eating tacos off a truck or parking it on a riverside patio or some point in between. Come in, go have fun. But it's when we spend these dollars locally and then bring, import these other dollars in, that we can have huge impact. And it just benefits the whole community through jobs, the taxes that are generated help pay for teachers and police and fire and all of these things that make our community so amazing. But we can all take part in that.
Yep.
That's a really great point. Goes with what we just got. Are there opportunities to promote tourism experience and safely? Thing looking at, Nicole.
Gosh, Karl, suddenly I'm having a hard time. I feel like, I don't know if it's me or I felt like I heard about every other word of that, Karl.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think I'm having an internet shortage right now. The kids must be playing Fortnite or something.
So I had the same issue, but did you say, is there virtual tourism opportunities?
Yeah, that was a question we just had in the Q&A.
Yep. Oh, yes, absolutely. So one of the things that we actually own gear to shoot virtual reality. So we've been shooting some pretty immersive videos. Some of it's going to be straight up VR. Some of it's going to be just capturing some of the amazing landscapes and outdoor opportunities. For us, when we roll this out, It's going to be all about our outdoor places and magical outdoor spaces and magical places, excuse me, highlighting. We've got some wonderful hiking trails here. You can road bike and mountain bike. You can take, horse guided tours out there in the vineyards. You can paddleboard, you can jet ski. All of these things are rentals, bike rentals, enjoy the trails. There's a lot of outdoor recreation here. So as we roll back, and this is where rural communities make great sense, is we roll back into this, people can, it's defined safely, get out and enjoy these spaces and maybe grab food to go enjoy that space, and then maybe kick it poolside at your hotel, whatever it might be. But we're going to be developing those, and we're even doing it with these decision makers I mentioned. So the sales teams work with these decision makers here in Washington State and across the US for meetings and conventions. We're sending them COVID care packs. So we've partnered with some local folks for some Tri-Cities premium goods so they can get a little flavor of what the Tri-Cities is all about. Part of that package is actually going to be virtual reality experiences where they can see how incredible the Tri-Cities is. So when it's time to travel, it's safe to do so. They've already got that, their interest is piqued and they want to come. But we're going to be developing that for people to view anywhere, whether it's here in Washington State or just up the road in Yakima, to come on down and enjoy what we have to offer, but drive economic impact here in the Tri-Cities. Great question.
Oh, that's great. Am I getting any better? Am I still kind of max headrooming it, or is that better? Okay.
That's great now. Yeah.
I like saying max headroom because, people that are younger than we are don't even know what we're talking about. If you don't remember the 80s or you weren't alive then, you don't even know who Max Headroom was. But we did want to point out that in the chat box, if you're on the call with us today with this inaugural Coffee with Karl, we did put up some links to the Pledge 1200 campaign that Lori just mentioned.
Yeah, that's great. I saw that. Thank you, Tracy.
Yeah, so we've got that out there. If anybody's interested in that, that looks like a great resource. And Tracy's been putting up some other, I think the Washington coronavirus site as well.
Karl, can
Yeah.
I share,
Of course.
a couple weeks ago, we all talked about there's a group on Monday that I've been involved with that is getting ready to launch a community-wide fundraising effort for families, kids, artists, small businesses, food needs, and I believe healthcare. And one of those, as I mentioned, is small business. And so the Chamber and TRIDEC and Visit Tri-Cities and Fuse are working to create a Tri-Cities Small Business Response Fund. And on Monday, the site is going to go live. It's called All In Tri-Cities. The website isn't live yet, but if you want, go check out All In Seattle. We're fashioning this after the All In Seattle campaign, and it's it's meant to be a long-term fundraising effort for various causes. And again, one of those causes is small business. And so, one of the things that I've really seen so much since this coronavirus hit is how much empathy people have for small business owners, and that that small business is a cause now. These people, these workers are, that the community really wants to help care for them. And so so on Monday, the site will be live, and there'll be an opportunity for people to donate directly to these various causes. And then any money that is collected through for the Small Business Response Fund, our 4 organizations will then take applications for these funds, and then give that money back to small businesses. So I just encourage anybody on this call on Monday to we have a big marketing effort planned as well, so you'll hear about this. But I didn't want today to go by without mentioning this fund that will be available. But of course, it's really dependent upon the community donating to this cause. And that's the other thing too that I've so noticed, as you all have, I'm sure, over these last few weeks, is just truly how great the Tri-Cities are, just the outpouring of support from Whether it's, I know Karl early on, TRIDEC was working with the hospital to collect all the PPE. I can't believe how much stuff was brought into the building in 3 days. And, you've got, like Campbell and Company collecting money for restaurants. You've got people doing food drives and, just doing all these things to try to help people. And it's just really heartwarming. And this All In Tri-Cities is really just another extension of that. You can help the Boys and Girls Club. You can help Second Harvest, United Way, small business. You can help the Art Center Task Force and artists. So it's really great. I think we all know we live in a really unique and wonderful place. And I think that it's just really been loud and clear over the last 5-6 weeks or so, really how great people are at helping to take care of each other. And I know I'm just really inspired by this.
Oh, that's oh, go ahead, Michael.
Oh, I was just gonna say, it is dynamite just to see people just embracing small business. I think that's kind of one of the silver linings. I think there's a few of them in what we're going through right now, but one of them is the recognition of some really cool assets and amenities we have in the Tri-Cities. And as small businesses have gotten really creative on delivering their services, so whether it's a Facebook Live event, remote yoga, curbside service, people doing hamburger kits. I mean, there's some cool stuff going on. We're discovering all of these wonderful things that are right here in our community that may have never been on our radar.
Right.
So while there's pain involved here, no doubt, it is really, really cool to see.
That's a great point. And Lori, thanks for bringing up the All In Tri-Cities. And really, you've been the point of the spear for our 3 organizations, and we appreciate you putting this together and then giving us the chance to partner. And I think that's, you brought up the PPE donation we first started, and that was a great example of how we all were able to kind of push that message out to our members and our contact lists. And I think it was really a reflection of all of us working together in the building to bring that much in. And I know from the first responders and the healthcare providers, that was a kind of a good start to get that program going. We've got a couple more questions. We're winding down on 7 minutes now. I'm trying to put my good DJ voice on, and I was just thinking about how do we wrap this thing up. And I just finally listened to Michael's recording that he shared the other day about the the song that he did about COVID. And I don't want to put him on the spot and have him sing us out, but that would be really cool if I just had it queued up and I could just roll that track, because that's a cool song.
So can I explain what that is?
Please do.
So again, we're sitting in this space. It's a tough space to be in, but we've got to find opportunities to laugh and find some joy in this thing, and this connectedness is certainly part of it. I took my team and I had been spitballing, how do we engage and stay in front of these decision makers, meeting planners, and the sports tournament directors, and all these people that bring big business here to the Tri-City. So one of the things that happened is Hector Cruz, who's our VP, he oversees our sports development. He did this thank you message that was a really cool video that had local teams talking to these teams far and wide about stay safe, but we look forward to seeing you. Can't wait to take the field with you again. Well, for the meeting planners, I took, you can pick your version. Mine was the Joe Cocker version. If I get by with a little help with my friends. But it started out, what would you do when COVID's preventing you from, basically attending your conference or convention? So the whole song is about these meeting planners not being able to get together. So it's, please know I'm a drummer. I'm not a vocalist. So it's a little cringeworthy, but I think the lyrics were spot on. But anyway.
I thought it was awesome. You guys always come up with great creative ways to get that message out, Michael. And I thought it was a great reflection of that for sure.
Well, I am working on War Pigs.
Does War Pigs, I'm assuming like War Pigs rhymes with COVID?
Yeah, how did it go? People gather in their masses. Yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
Okay. That's awesome. Well, here's a couple more questions that we can wrap up on. From Bob out there, he's asking, as tensions may likely rise between both the sheriff departments, I think that's the announcement from Walla Walla County Sheriff, and the state, what do you see as a peaceful solution to reopen our economies? Could the state force their hand? And if so, could our people be caught in the crossfire? And I think it's a very general question. From our perspective, what do we think is a good way for all of us to work together to really get the economy reopened? And maybe we can talk a little bit about that question.
Yeah, I think, there's a hierarchy on this decision making that I think, needs to be honored. When we look at, if the federal government sets a ceiling on something, the state government can make it more restrictive. And then when we get, here to the local government, they can even put further restrictions to protect us. But it doesn't work the other way. It doesn't work if the governor has set something that's in alignment with where they're at in terms of federal authority and respecting that, to go outside of that. And I think we really need to recognize what our state constitution, what the federal constitution calls for, and adhere to that. Those rules are in place for a really good reason. And I think that if we can do that, we're going to avoid some of these potential pitfalls.
I think one of the roles that our three organizations can play and probably should play. So maybe the three of us, maybe we can touch base someday next week early on and maybe talk about this. But I think that as we start to talk about this reopening, I think that a regional approach, or at least our organizations are regional, and I think we sit in a unique position where we can convene all of these local organizations and at least just we're all a little we're not connected. We can't call everybody into the Bechtel boardroom and bring everybody from the cities and the ports and the counties and all of the various organizations together, but we certainly can meet like this. And I think that we're probably at that point where where we need to call a meeting with our regional partners and just start talking about what this looks like, so that we're all working in a concerted effort, so that because what one of us does is going to impact all of the others. And so if we're all on the same page, it'll be a more organized restart. And I think in the long run, really better for our community, for our image, for our brand, for our, for how we look to the rest of the state. And that, I think we really have an opportunity to put our best foot forward. But I think it has to be done with a regional approach.
I think that's a great, really, really good point, Lori. And I think that really speaks about all three of our organizations, and that we do have the regional focus. And, part of our role really, and our team's role, is to be that convener and because I think in these uncertain times, and I know that phrase gets way overused, but communications is something that we can all work on. Even though we're remote, we have technology now that we can try to pull that together. And I think this question about especially authority in the state and the sheriff and the federal government strikes too that in today's world, I think that to try to create some common understanding of what are the priorities here. And I think the first priority that everybody's come down on is safety. We really don't want friends and loved ones, whether we're in this category that's more at risk or not. We really want people to be safe. And I think that's what it all really needs to come down to. I really didn't plan this out well. Looks like we got about 1 minute. And so Michael did already kind of lead us out on a song, but I just wanted to thank both of you guys. Really, really appreciate your flexibility on very short notice to give us an hour of your time today. You guys have a lot of things going on, but I think it really speaks highly of our partnership and the things we're working on together. But thank you both very much for really, as far as I know, making this first Coffee with Karl being a kickoff. And I do think that even though it's 2:30 and we're drinking out of our coffee cups, and Michael did bring up before the call started, he goes, nobody's asking us what's in the coffee cup because it's not really coffee time. But thank you guys both. I don't know if you have a closing statement you want to give, but thanks for your time today.
Yeah, no, I just want to thank you guys also for putting this together. And I would just say to anybody on the call, I don't know how to look at who's on, so I have no idea. I see the numbers, but I'm sure Tracy can let us know who all was on the call. I just would encourage anybody that that has an idea or a need, and we're not talking about it. I think I speak for all of us that, you know, we're waking up thinking about this, we're going to bed thinking about this every single day about how can our organizations pivot to provide value. And so if there's something we could or should be doing that we're not, you know, I think that, you know, please call me, call Karl, call Michael. And, you know, I think that, you know, we talk regularly, and, you know, we're all really interested in, you know, doing the right thing for our businesses and our citizens and our region. So please reach out to any or all of us if there's something that you think we should be doing differently.
Yeah, I think that's exceptional. And, you know, and I think it's so interesting as we're remotely connected like this. It's new norm at the moment, but you know, let people know, whether it's your staff, your coworkers, your neighbor, just how much you appreciate them, because it's going to be good when we can all get back together. But I think people really need to hear that right now, because I sure do appreciate my team, I appreciate my board, but and I certainly appreciate both of you as partners. We're doing some pretty cool stuff together. The collaboration and innovation is exceptional. But I appreciate this community. The Tri-Cities is pretty dynamite, and we've got some neat people stepping up and doing some dynamite things that we should all be very, very proud of.
Absolutely.
That's well said, both of you guys. Well, thanks again for your time today, and thanks everybody for joining us on the Zoom call. And we look forward to more conversations together. Everybody have a good weekend. Thank you.
Thanks all.
Karl, thanks, Michael.
Thank you.